see here. Well, it looks like there's 2 viewers, but 3 now. All right, I'm back. Sorry about the delay in getting started, but it took me so long to set up the screen that I just barely got to go run to the restroom real quick. But anyway, I've got it set up by default going to the D&D Beyond, but we can go to other sites if need be. Just setting up this new screen because I finally got a registered copy of the streaming software I'm using. So say hi and channel. This is the RPG College. I'm going to shoot up my schedule real quick just to remind people when I'm here. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 to midnight. Saturday and Sunday from noon to 3, and Tuesdays from 5 to 7, doing what's called nostalgia gaming. That's where I play older games like old school RuneScape, new RuneScape, Final Fantasy X, Dark Cloud 1 and 2, Rayman, Ape Escape, Dragon's Lair, Tetris, those kind of games. So it's any kind of retro gaming. Not really the edge of the mark stuff. However, when I am alpha testing Fractured, which is I'm on the alpha testing list for that, it supersedes all of those shows. So even though it's nostalgia gaming time, I'll probably be in Fractured during those time periods and as many other time periods as I possibly can. Now, a lot of my off time periods that I log in might be during the day when my girlfriend is doing work from home and using the Wi-Fi, so I have to use phone as Wi-Fi. At those times, I probably won't be able to access Fractured because it'll be a little bit more heavy on the bandwidth. So at that time, I might go back to doing some retro gaming, mostly old school RuneScape, because it's very light on the resources. So that's always a possibility at those times when I will do that. Now, the other 2 shows that the other 3 shows that I have 2 RPG College shows. One is from 7 to 9 on Tuesdays, and the other one is right now from 3 to 5 on Sundays. And this is my first of the Sunday shows. I missed last week because I was in the hospital, and that would have been my inaugural Sunday show, where they do an open forum talking about tabletop role-playing games. Everything from how to be a good player, how to be a good DM, advice, tricks, tips on how to handle certain situations that come up, things like encounter building or making interesting bosses or NPCs, writing interesting and engaging character backstories, or world design, even picking which role-playing game is the right role-playing game for you, because 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons or any Dungeons & Dragons may not even be the right game for you. You might be needing to play something completely different for your wants and needs, and the needs and wants of your friends in your local community could be very different. I mean, 5th edition is the biggest out there right now, but that doesn't mean it's the only game on the market. And just for an example, in Japan, the highest grossing and most played role-playing game tabletop-wise is Call of Cthulhu. And the second highest is 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which for the most part wasn't really embraced much in the United States and the UK. But in Japan, it's still played more often than 5th edition is. So that's just to let you know that the different tastes go around. And then you might be into superhero genre. Maybe you get into the game because your friends, comic book collectors and stuff, you met at conventions, you go to to collect comics and stuff and cosplay, and someone says, hey, you want to play some role-playing games, and you're fine, but you don't want to sit down and play in a medieval fantasy. You'd much rather play your superhero characters. That the reason you got into some of this nerddom and hobbies is you want to play Wolverine, or you want to play Spider-Man, or characters similar to them. Maybe you used to play an MMORPG like City of Heroes, City of Villains, and you want to do something where you get to make your own custom superhero and play. So then you might want to play a game like the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, the DC Heroes game, or Champions or Villains and Vigilantes, something of that sort. See, because there's Mutants and Masterminds, there's all kinds of games like that that might fit you better. Or say you want to simulate a one of the ensemble TV shows like Leverage or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Firefly, and you really want to live in that universe and play some of that, or Star Wars or Star Trek. Well, there's role playing games for that too. All of those have their own role playing games. Or you want to do something interesting and different. You want to be on the edge of your seat trying to do skill checks and stuff. There's a system called Fudge out there that, if you're familiar with what a Jenga tower looks like, of course, the Fudge system doesn't call it a Jenga tower, but it is. It's just, interlacing blocks that you have to move and stack. Whenever you need to do a skill challenge, the game master will tell you to do a certain number of pulls from the Jenga stack, and that means you have to pull that many bricks from lower levels and stack them up top without toppling the whole tower. And if you don't topple the whole tower, you have a success. If you do topple the tower, you have a failure. So that's much more edge of your seat because there's a visceral reaction right there. So that's a game that you might want to play. So I'm just checking to make sure we don't have any talking of in the channel. My girlfriend is kind of acting like my PA, my public assistant or personal assistant or production assistant. PA can stand for any of those three in the game. And asking if you have any questions about role-playing games in general or Dungeons & Dragons specifically, because that's what these 2 hours are for. Now, the last thing on my schedule before I turn off the schedule is I do a simulcast with Left Claw Studios from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And that's where two local gamer friends of mine, Angel and Philip, also known as Lurchland and Left Claw Studios, come in and they stream them playing PlayStation games, Xbox games, Steam games, stuff like that. In fact, they're actually streaming it right at this moment. They do a Sunday show too, but it coincides with this one, so I'm not simulcasting them right now. But they are playing Overwatch right now, I know. So if you go to YouTube and you look up Left Claw Studios, you can watch them play Overwatch right now, and that's perfectly fine. I do want to send more people over there. They need more followers, and that's why I do a Twitch simulcast for them on Tuesday, because they stream to Facebook Watch and YouTube, but they don't have an ability to stream to a third service. But with me simulcasting them, that gives them access to Twitch as well. And then I'm there monitoring, and I can copy any questions from my chat over to them so they can answer it. So that gives them that new venue, and it's just I'm helping them get started on their more live, because most of what they've been doing has been pre-recorded stuff that they just upload to YouTube. But now they're trying to break into the live market a little bit, and they're doing stuff like video game advice, old and new video games, and nerd culture. And so you want to do that. But anyway, let's get off the schedule, and I go to the cam screen now, and you can see me. And as you can see, right in the middle of the side of me, right over there is Extra Life. Extra Life is kind of a soft sponsor. They don't sponsor me, but rather I sponsor them through my stream. And what that means is it's the charity I've chosen to kind of reach out to people and say, look, if you want to help by supporting me, but you don't want to support me directly, you'd rather support a charity in my name, go to my Extra Life page. Extra Life is part of the Children's Miracle Network. So these are helping children that are often hospital bound. They don't get to go home and be with their families, especially during the coronavirus. They didn't even get to be visited by a lot of their families. Their kids with cancer, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, end-stage renal disease, type 1 diabetes to the point where their immune system is so compromised that they can't go home. Things of this nature. They're like I said, often hospital bound, and the Children's Miracle Network does things to ease them when they're in the hospital. Things like providing entertainment and game console systems and visitors, and helping pay towards research to help them in their various conditions, or possibly help them transition to home with their family and coming up with the extra equipment and stuff it might need to do such a transition, and maybe a nurse to come in and help them at home. And these are all things that the Children's Miracle Network can do. And I myself have end-stage renal disease. I'm at home and I go to do dialysis treatment 3 days a week, but I'm technically immunocompromised and I have to worry about a lot of the things. But I am not a child going through this. These are children going through this, and it's important to help them out. And with the Extra Life program, what we are is a group of nerds, mainly gamers and other nerd geek culture people who stream to raise money for Extra Life, specifically through the Children's Miracle Network. And that money goes, unlike where a lot of these kind of funds go to the big nebulous national or international fund to be distributed out in trickles, and a lot of it ends up just going to administrative fees and not actually helping the people that you're trying to help. In this case, 100% of the funds raised by Extra Life goes into the local community as designated by the person who's running the campaign. And all of it goes towards helping the kids, not administrative fees, not all this other stuff. Other things get to take care of that. This all goes directly to helping the children. And I have designated, since I'm here in Springfield, Missouri, is the Springfield Greene County Medical through the Cox family of services. So Cox Health, because that's the hospital I go to when I need to go to the hospital. And so I trust them to give the best care they possibly can. I'm not saying that they always give the best care. No hospital does. I wasn't real happy with my last stay in the hospital, but who is happy when they're staying in the hospital? But they are some of the number one rated when it comes to things like cancer treatment and heart surgery and such in the nation. So it's a great place to support. And so every bit that you donate to there, and I've got a very modest goal of $1,000, and that's all year. I've only raised 25 so far because I've had one donation, but the big drive day is not until November 7th. That's when we do a national or international game day, where all the various people that are at Extra Life that can do it on that day will be streaming marathon streams and anywhere from like 8 to 24 hours streaming in order to raise funds for the cause. And I will be attempting to go as long as I can. I don't know if I'll make 24 hours, but it is a Saturday, so I will attempt to go and do as long as I can streaming on that day in order to help. And I'm more than happy to move that slider further over, because $1,000 is no means do we have to stop at $1,000. I've just set it as a very modest goal for our community, because the gaming community, we're large enough, there's enough people out there that we could actually easily make more than $1,000 by donating to that. Now, if you do want to directly support my stream instead of my Extra Life campaign, I'm close to making affiliate. I need more viewers to make affiliate. I need to average at three viewers average across all my streams in the last 30 days. That's the only qualification I'm needing in order to make the affiliate. I'm at it like 2.2 average viewers. So the more viewers I have, the better chance I have of making affiliate. And then once I'm affiliate, then I'll have a subscribe button, and you can hit that subscribe button, you mash it, crash into it, whatever you do to it, and you will subscribe, and I will get funds because of that. And I will be shown support because of that. Now, subscription does cost. I think most Twitch subscriptions are $4.99 a month. However, everybody who's a Amazon Prime member has one free subscription a month that they can hand out, and then the next month they can change and hand it out to somebody else. It's not like it auto renews back to the same person over and over again unless you manually do that. So it's something they can spread around to show their favorites. When they go out and they find a new stream, they go ahead and throw them a Amazon Prime subscription, and you're telling them, hey, look, I'm voting for you, you're great. And it gives them a bit of that, and it shows Twitch that this is a channel that's valued, and that's where they can earn more revenue from advertising, which is how any kind of TV or anything works. Advertising is what pays the main overarching producers like Twitch and NBC and ABC and CBS. Um, and then the individual shows earn money by drawing in an audience to watch those commercials. And so the more viewers I have, the more followers I have, the more Twitch sees value in my show, and the more I will get compensated for my show. And all the compensation for my show is going towards just upgrading stuff for my show. Another way, if you want to support me, is you can join my Patreon page. That's going to www.patreon.com/gamersus, just like the channel name. It's a GAMERSEUSS, and that'll be my patrons page. I have 2 levels of membership there. I have the basic membership is $5 a month, and then I have the more advanced membership is $10 a month. For the $10 a month membership right now, there is the prologue to a book I'm writing, a lit RPG novel. And when the next chapter of that book comes out, it'll come out and be available for the people on the $10 tier level. And the prologue will move down and be available to the people in the $5 tier. And that's kind of how I'm going to do the trickle down reward system for my patrons. And I could have several projects going, 5, 6, 7 books, and they'll be in different stages. The most recent chapter will be available in the tier with the $10 a month charge, and then everything else will trickle down as the new chapters come out for new projects. Now, I've done some writing, I've done editing, I've done a few other different things project-wise that you could possibly get a gander at. Now, I can't always, like I said, post stuff I'm working on editing because that would be stuff copyrighted by that initial author. But I could tell you some of the stuff maybe that I'm working on, depending on if there's any non-disclosures involved. And I'm eventually hoping to do stuff like maybe audiobook narration. I do want to update my microphone and my filter system. And when we move into a house, I want to have a studio kind of setup. Right now, I'm monitoring my chat channel on my cell phone. I don't even have dual monitor support right now, which is why often my girlfriend picks up the slack by kind of going into chat room and trying to spark some communication while I'm actually hosting the show. And she can catch comments that might fly by back a little bit too fast for me. I mean, right now she's behind me doing dishes, but nobody's talking in channel either, so it's neither here nor there. But dishes need done, and so hey, we got to do them. We don't have a dishwasher. We live in a tiny apartment, so they get ahead of us way too quickly. And we have a 15-year-old too, so that just adds to everything. But I'm looking to do more and more. But I'm here to answer your questions, concerns about tabletop role-playing games. This is back to the subject. I call my show the RPG College Video in the Raw. And I call it that because I do not edit this footage. Once I do it, if we don't have anything going, I may not move it over to YouTube. But if we have any real discussion of value, I move these shows over to YouTube and you get it raw, uncut, unedited. The only editing that might happen is if I end up using something that's copyrighted and the copyright police at YouTube say, hey, wait a minute, you don't have permission to use that, and they make me cut it out. And then I use their system to automatically cut something out. I might do that with a soundtrack or something that I might not have permission for. But on this show, I try to only play stuff that I would have permission or would be open, like advertising stuff, like the D&D Beyond theme song or something of that nature, or like some preview videos for up and coming nerd type stuff, because I do like to touch on nerd news and everything too during my show. Speaking of which, the Founders and Legends should be going on. I think it's next weekend. That's Gary Gygax's son, Luke Gygax, hosts it. And they go back. It's kind of a part of GaryCon that's not happening physically this year, but the Founders and Legends has been virtual every year anyway. And they come and they play D&D and other role-playing games in celebration of the hobby that was started back in 1974 when Gary Gygax and Dave Runson first published the OD&D set of Dungeons and Dragons. I started in 1978, just 3.5 years after they started. I was already playing it as a little 7-year-old kid, but this is the Founders and Legends show, and that should be coming. I believe it's next weekend that will be here. And I also said that to remind people on the 16th of this month, which is this coming Thursday, all of my shows except the RPG College are probably going to be superseded by alpha testing of Fractured, which is an isometric sandbox, massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And of course, all the MMORPGs were inspired originally by Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games like them. So without one, we wouldn't have the other industry. And that's true of a lot of our gaming. There's a very good chance that if Dungeons and Dragons had never come into being, then certain games out there, if they did come into being, they would not look anything like they currently look. A lot of the role play aspects of games, even if they're not technically role playing games, would be very different if they didn't have the influence of Dungeons and Dragons to help guide them towards what they're doing. Uh, these are games like Fortnite and Half-Life and what have you. I don't play a lot of these games, but like for Elder Scroll Online, Diablo 3, those are directly influenced by Dungeons and Dragons. And we can talk things like Dungeons and Dragons history and stuff too, and history of the gaming world if you want. If that's the kind of thing we can talk about in the open forum. Right now, I'm just kind of blasting you with a bunch of information since nobody's really talking in channel. Game Note is there though, Game Note RS. Uh, but yeah, if you got any questions or concerns about what? Yeah, Game Note RS. That's what I said. No, Game Note RS. She misheard me. But yeah, Game Note RS is in channel. It's great to always see him. Um, we have, well, I don't know if it's him or her because they've never actually identified, and that's fine too. I try not to make assumptions. We are one of the things I do like to talk about in our community of geeks and nerds and what have you. I prefer the term nerd. A lot of people prefer the term geek. Uh, I think it's a matter of just what generation you grew up in. But one of the things about our culture as compared to a lot of other quote unquote subcultures out there is we're very accepting of other people's foibles and other people's choices and other people's realities. Not everything is a choice. Sometimes it's a reality in life. Uh, we like to call them choices, but they're not exactly choices. Um, like, for instance, we are very accepting of people in the LGBTQ community. They're welcome to come in and play, and we try to do our best to make everybody comfortable at the table and not have any inappropriate propositions or innuendo or anything happening at the table unless the game is specifically rated for that and everybody involved with the game is comfortable with that level of familiarity. Because there are adult games out there where the whole point is to get a little raunchy and everybody agrees to that and it's more of a party game kind of atmosphere, but everybody has agreed. If you don't agree, you don't do it. And that's the thing, is we want everybody to be comfortable here, and we don't care what color, what race, what ethnicity, and because race is often misused in today's society. Race, there's only one race of humans. There is no multiple races. There are multiple ethnicities, multiple backgrounds, multiple subcultures, or what have you, of humans. But we're not variants. We're not different races. The scientific definition of a separate race, they might be able to breed, but they don't breed true, as in the two come together would make a sterile offspring. That's basically like when a horse and a donkey get together and you get a mule. Horses and donkeys are both equines, but they're different races. And so when they come together, for the most part, the resulting um, colt is a mule and is not fertile. It cannot breed true even with another mule. Uh, so that's the scientific definition of different races. We're not different races. We're just different aspects of the same race. Where in like Dungeons and Dragons or something, you have representatives of different real races there. And that's one of the things about a fantasy game that needs to be embraced as well, is the different races are different races. Elves are different from humans. Dwarfs are different from humans. Kinku are different from elves and dwarves and humans. Orcs and goblins are different from humans. In the real world, humans have choice. They have the ability to choose if they want to be moral or amoral. They have the ability to act on their baser instincts or rise above themselves and not act on their basis instincts. In the game world, some of the races do not have that choice. They're more directly influenced by the gods of the game. The gods are very real forces in these games. I'm not saying that your religion is valid or not in the real world, but the actual impact that your religion has is very real in a fantasy setting like Dungeons and Dragons, where the actual living avatar of the god could show up and smite you with the snap of their fingers in the game if they wanted to, or in the game world. So races there are a lot of times can be limited by certain things. Like, for instance, in my world of D&D, my homebrew world, goblins and orcs and drow are evil races. And I say that the races are evil. A lot of people try to go away from the fact that a race can be evil by default. But in a world where the gods are directly involved and actually have control of a race under them with like an iron thumb, they actually get involved. Yes, there can be. They are raised to be brutal, savage, monstrous characters. And if somebody wants to play a monstrous PC in my game, they have to give me a backstory that explains how and why they broke apart from their native culture, and it has to be a good one, and it essentially has to move them towards the good alignment as well, because I don't let evil players play in my game. I don't play the anti-hero game. My game is for heroic fantasy. Some DMs like to run the evil campaign. Some people like to run the hodgepodge where you can be anything, evil or good. But there's very rarely a really good justifiable reason that a notorious quote-unquote evil character would be accepted and allowed to travel for very long with a goodly party, or even a mostly neutral party. It partly depending on what kind of evil we're coming. Because, for instance, lawful evil can be trusted in some ways because at least their word is still of value, even if they're evil. So their intent is negative to most of the world. They do have a tendency to have a code and keep their word. So they might travel okay under very strict guidelines with a group of good characters. But on the other hand, a chaotic evil character would not. They would have trouble even controlling their urges enough to be accepted in those groups. But we try to be as accepting as possible in our nerd culture, as it was the point of that diatribe. Um, we got 3 people in channel, one of which is my girlfriend, one of which is probably my phantom viewer I have all the time, which I think is a system bot or something. His name say something, and right now one of them is Game Note RS. I think he's still here, he or she. And all that talking all at once, I need to lubricate my throat a little bit. I am here to answer questions and concerns about tabletop role-playing games. And like I said, I've got 42 years of experience in these games, and that also lends itself to the computer games and that spawned from these tabletop role-playing games. I mean, I was a beta tester for games like EverQuest and Planescape Torment and one of the World of Darkness games at Daggerfall and games that at Neverwinter's Night. I'm now getting ready to alpha test Fractured, the MMO. So I've been in on the beta test. I've actually gone in and worked in the gaming industry. I totally wrote an advanced guidebook for a tabletop role-playing game called Mythic by Cactus Totem Entertainment. Their advanced Mythic book was written by me. It had some stuff written for it before I took over the project, but then a large amount of the content in that book, probably good 60-70% of it was completely built by me, and the other 30% was provided to me, and then I had to adapt it to work with what I built. So that whole book was written by me and edited by my girlfriend. I am listed in the front of the book as the lead writer, and my girlfriend is listed as the lead editor. So if you see it, and you see me as Clyde Starr, or Clyde quote Doc Starr, as lead writer, and as the chief editor, you will see Allison Lawson, who's my girlfriend, or Sophia Starr, in the channel here with you. So um, even though we don't always put that in our resumes, because we're no longer actually working for the company, it's not like we broke apart with bad blood or anything. It's just we're no longer working that company. They've gone one direction, we've gone another. But we do some private editing. I do some game design on the side. I've got several prototypes for board and card games on my laptop that I need to finish. And I've worked on some role-playing game supplements, and I'm also working to possibly publish some adventures for 5th edition D&D that are accessible through the Adventures League of Play at some point, through maybe the DM's Guild online. So I'm directly involved with the industry in a lot of different ways, and so you can ask me questions about that, about my process, about we can start a discussion. Like one of the panels I do at a convention is called the GM's Roundtable. I use GM, not DM, because I'm talking to game masters of all different games, not just Dungeons and Dragons. And DM really kind of focuses on Dungeons and Dragons. It's actually even a copyrighted abbreviated term, which means that other games aren't technically supposed to use it, but many of them do, and DM doesn't. The Wizards of the Coast doesn't come down hard on them or anything. It just happens to be a copyrighted term from back when it was TSR Games, Gary Gygax's original company. And now Wizards of the Coast is actually owned by Hasbro International, so they're subject to big business things. So if anybody was going to push a copyright, it probably would be Hasbro. Now, Wizards of the Coast came to preeminence in the gaming industry through the introduction of the little card game known as Magic the Gathering, and it's probably hit the world by storm. It is the biggest gaming phenomenon out, period, bar none. Pokemon hit pretty good. Digimon was okay, but Magic the Gathering is what they call crack for gamers. Once you get started, you need to feed that habit, and it's a several $100 monkey on your back kind of thing, because they're always coming out with new cards and new sets, and then banning and restricting the cards already existing so that they're either don't unbalance the game or don't prevent you from trying to get more of the new cards to do some of the similar mechanics. So yeah, Magic the Gathering is an unstoppable beast. I happen to have been one of the first tournament judges to Magic the Gathering in California, so I'm well familiar with the game, even though I stopped playing after the invasion block when it just got a little bit too commercial for me, but that's fine for other people. That leads me into another bit of lore, because I'll just keep entertaining you with lore if nobody asks me any questions. But another little bit of lore. The game of Magic the Gathering was so popular and so many people around the world wanted to play it that then it got too monetized, too commercial for a lot of people. They still wanted to play the game, but they didn't want to invest their fortunes constantly in buying new cards, because that could get rather expensive, especially some people that's on a budget. Like, for instance, me, I'm disabled. I live on $800 and some a month, period. I can't afford a lot of frivolous things like buying new massive amount of packs of Magic when a new set comes out, just to keep competitive with everybody else in the competitive Magic format. So one of the things a pair of German gamers did, who really liked Magic and loved the old deck building strategies and stuff, is they helped build a subgenre of board and card games called the Deck Builder board game. And this is kind of very loosely based on games like Magic the Gathering, in that you build your deck as you go along playing. And the main difference is the cards you have to draft from are not like dependent on you going out and buying booster packs or anything. They're dependent on, a set of uh, conscriptable cards in the game itself. And the first game that they came out with, like this, the two German players created a game called Dominion, which is probably the biggest thing in the deck builder craze. It's one of our favorite games. We have a couple of different versions of it. Uh, what it does in this game is you start out with basic resource cards as your deck. You have some copper coin cards, single copper coin cards, and then you have uh, these 3 estates, which are basically little victory point cards. There's like 3 of them. They're the lowest level victory point cards, and you have 3 of those, and you have like 7 uh, single copper coin cards in your starting deck. You shovel it up and you draw yourself 5 cards. So you could have anywhere from 2 to 5 copper to spend on this first round. And what you do with Dominion is you can either randomly or purposely select 10 of the different kind of add-on cards in the game, and there's a whole bunch. In just the base set alone, there's probably 30 or 40 different cards that you could put out there, and each one has a different cost to draft it into your deck. What happens is you buy the card with your coins in that given round. You don't get to save the money from leftover your coins for future rounds in most cases. There are some exceptions, cards that allow you to do something just like that. But you draft the card, and then the card immediately goes into your discard pile along with your most recent hand once you're done with it. So then once you empty out your current deck, you shuffle the discard pile, flip it over, and draw 5 cards again. And now you're playing with both the cards you started with, just the copper and the estates, but now you're also playing with all the cards you purchased and had put into your graveyard, or your discard pile is what you call it. And so, but this way you're building your deck up, and you only want to buy the cards that are going to accent your deck, and you want to get rid of the cards that don't, like use them as throwaways, use them because you can convert them into generic or specific colored mana, or in some way even find a way to trade them to the other player for a more viable card to you. And because the fact that all these cards go together in one game means you don't have to worry about mixing everybody's decks up when you do that, because it all goes to a single deck when you're done cleaning up the clutter. And that's general information about Dominion, the card game that grew from the Magic the Gathering hobby. I've been thinking I want to play something. Online Dominion isn't enough. Yeah, we used to play a lot of online and offline Dominion, uh, and of course I play various other games. My girlfriend doesn't play a whole lot of computer games. She plays a few phone games like, Township and Merge Dragons and things like that. But it looks like she's kind of interested, and that's a perfectly good question. Since we don't have other questions to deal with, what games are very role playing game like that might fit what she wants to scratch the itch for herself when she doesn't have a bunch of other people to play with, but she wants to maybe scratch that itch and go out and kill goblins and stuff. Because I know she loves to kill goblins as her character. In fact, she's a fellow writer. An editor. In fact, she's the better editor of the two of us. She's the English major. She's our primary editor in our company. And she's a writer, though, and she enjoys making her characters come to life in her mind, even if it turns out to just be a character on a piece of paper for a Dungeons and Dragons game, or a character in a video game, she would still have an imaginary backstory kind of running in her head about it, whether it came out in the computer game or not. So games that might be suggested for her, it would partly depend on if we're looking for something we'd have to buy or something I already have. Now, I do have Diablo 3 on the PlayStation 4. That would fit her quite a bit. It's very much of a nightmare quest into like the hells. So you fight a lot of demons and undead and stuff with your characters, and there's certain classes you can play there. So that's an option for her. I have Elder Scrolls Online that she could play, but she doesn't have a paid PlayStation account. I do. I'm not sure if I can make it to where she could get on with my account or if she'd have to do it herself. But she could always log in with my account and just make another character specifically for her. So that's another option if she wanted to get into a MMORPG type of thing. And the advantage of doing MMORPG is although she would be out there traveling by herself, she would have the option to sometimes form up a group with other people that are playing and go do raids and stuff. And that's one of the things that the MMORPG genre of video games really opened up, was it being closer to the D&D tabletop type experience, because you could meet up with your friends and you could all go on a quest together, and it's not just a matter of who's got the same controllers standing side by side in front of the same TV with like a split screen display. No, in this case, you both can be in front of your own computers, all meet in a shared world environment, and there's not even any restrictions keeping somebody from running off the screen too far away. Where like in a dual split screen system, quite often if you get too far apart from each other, it'll lock you, won't let you go too further out afield. But in an MMORPG, they're much more sandboxy open worlds where, like one character in a normal party could be farming their fishing skill on in Quanos. I'm going to use terms from EverQuest just because it's easier for me to think that way. They could be just farming fishing in Quanos at a lake, while another member of their normal party could be up on the plains of power buying equipment at the bazaar, and another one still could be raiding over in some new area that just opened up, and maybe even with a different group of people or what have you. And that's the advantages of an MMORPG. I think I'd have to do my own. Okay, yeah, you would have to do your own character, whatever it is. It may or may not be on my account on the PlayStation, depending on if you're using something that's internet enhanced or not. Because if you need to do something that's playing on the internet, you'd either have to pay to have a membership yourself, or you'd have to piggyback on my membership. But that's fine since I don't always use it. You could do that, and I've got character slots for that too. But that would be in the future. And you have your Tetris World game too, which you were willing to play. And if you got online membership, you could open up some more options on your Tetris World as well. It's just an example of one of the things that having a annual subscription to the PlayStation Network will help you with. We only have PlayStation in our house. We do not touch Xbox. So we have a Wii U, which isn't hooked up currently, and we have a PlayStation 4 right now. And I'm chomping at the bit about the PlayStation 5, even though it'll be out a good 6 months to a year before I even contemplate buying one. I'm just chomping at the bit because I'm looking at all the new stuff getting ready to be released for it, and it's fantastic looking. That's in nerd news for you guys. But there's all kinds of games that could help my girlfriend scratch that gamer itch. Computer wise, it's not quite the same as going out and playing with a group of people, though. You see, under her own name is under her own name. She just have to sit down and pay for it. Yeah, and it's really not that expensive. Like once a year, I pay like $60, but that's for the whole year. So it's like, uh, was that like $5 a month for 12 months, something like that. it's like around $60 for the year. But if you buy it, so if she ever tries to do that, she could. Um, or she could do something with her computer instead of on the PlayStation, because she's really not a user of the PlayStation as much as I am. She uses the PlayStation more for video streaming. She likes to listen to YouTube videos or watch like Doctor Who and stuff on there, or we'll pop a movie because our PlayStation is also our Blu-ray and DVD player. So that's what she mostly uses the PlayStation for. She does have Tetris World on there. She never plays it, but she's got it. She's not really much of a PlayStation gamer. She's not necessarily as much of a using the control stick stuff. So she might even find that a computer game, like for instance, the gaming that she was watching me do earlier today was old school RuneScape, and it has old retro graphics and stuff, but it's a nice little immersive open game that she could possibly play. And there's a free to play server. It locks you out of certain skills, but you can also be granted bonds by other players. They'll give them to you sometimes, or you can buy them with in-game gold once you amass enough in-game gold so that you could actually be on a member's server without actually paying real world money. So that's always an option in those kind of games too. So there's all kinds of different solutions that are out there for the person who's looking for them. Let's see what she had to say last. The Good Tetris website is shut down. I just happened to look the other day. That's the website, right? So you might even want to start playing your Tetris World more just because of the fact that it's not shut down. um, but yeah, you might want to look into RuneScape. And if maybe old school RuneScape may not flip your switches, but new RuneScape would, because RuneScape 3 is also out. And it's better graphically, and some of the stuff is a little bit easier to handle. So maybe that will flip it. Since you didn't start with old school RuneScape, the nostalgia bit wouldn't necessarily be as much of a draw to you. So you might be more into playing regular RuneScape, and I could show you how to do that as well. And you can play that for free. You just don't have access to some of the member type advanced skill options and stuff. Um, but I'm playing the new RuneScape with no membership, and you can get bonds in new RuneScape too. Technically, my bonds in old RuneScape give me access to new RuneScape if I was using the same email address, but I'm not because I made different characters under different email addresses. Mainly because the other one that I had on this email address that I'm using for old school RuneScape, it had been so long since I'd logged in, I'd forgotten how I got to where I was, and I needed to start over with a tutorial. And the only way to start over is to make a new account with a new email. So I did. But now I could probably cut back and play on members on both, because I've got 44 days of membership currently. But those are options for her. So that's one game she could play. Maybe once Fractured comes out, she might like the idea of having watched me play it, and she might decide to pay for membership to Fractured, or jump in during some of the open playtesting weeks when they actually allow anybody to jump in and play just to try it out, when they stress test it a little bit, which is usually at the tail end of each of their alpha tests. So she could do that too. That's one of the great things about computer games. There's such a wide variety out there right now that can scratch some of the itch. I mean, nothing's going to quite scratch the itch of being at a gaming table and being able to look the other players in the eye and interact with them and joke around with them, call them salamanders and stuff, and have them actually respond to the jokes, because the AI can only do so much before it's no longer able to respond to you and your more humorous comments. And I know that's one of the things she likes is the camaraderie and the storytelling in the group format that is Dungeons and Dragons. Um, Being a writer, though, she's also fully capable of inventing all the content herself in her own head. She don't necessarily need everybody else's input. That doesn't mean she doesn't like it. She just doesn't always necessarily need it. Um, okay, we're about an hour into our 2-hour show on tabletop role-playing games called the RPG College, and I'm still waiting for some of my other listeners to ask questions, because this is an open forum. Now, like I said, this is my very first Sunday show of its kind, because last week we didn't make it. I was in the hospital. If you were wondering why I was in the hospital, my foot had swollen up quite a bit. We thought it could be an infection. Turned out to just be fluid retention because I'm a renal patient and I do retain fluids. That's part of the reason you see me chewing on ice so much, is to control my fluid intake. That's not to say I never drink a juice or a soda pop or a chocolate milk or a hot chocolate or something, but I do chew on ice as much as I possibly can too. Uh, my girlfriend is grumbling about peoples. What are peoples doing now? Of course, she could just be grumbling because everybody's being quiet. There's a lot of things people make her grumble. People being peoples, yeah. That's it was said. One of the best quotes I remember is from Men in Black when Tommy Lee Jones is talking about people. It says a person is smart. People are scared animals, and it's the truth. People are often sheep, and we're seeing some of that right now, and it's coming out in two different ways right now with the like coronavirus out there. There are some people that are blindly following the dictates of one school of thought, and there are people that are blindly following the dictates of another school of thought, and each one is rebelling against the other school of thought. And you know, it means that both sides aren't necessarily getting a lot of traction. And there's merit on both sides of the arguments too. Um, I will say, for instance, I am firmly the belief that we opened stuff back up too soon. But everybody's so afraid of going back into shelter in place because of their loss of business and the economy is going to collapse. The economy is going to collapse. That they'd rather see the economy collapse because the customers all die off uh, than risk, and what? And the workers. Yeah, if all your customers and workers die off, the economy is going to collapse a lot faster than if you close the businesses down for a reasonable length of time in order to let this virus truly blow over. Perfect example, the Spanish flu back in 1918 killed less than 5 million people, but it was one of the worst flus to ever hit. Less than 5 million people. But that's not what was really bad, because the second wave of the Spanish flu killed close to 50 million people. 10 times as much in the second wave because they opened things up too early and got too overconfident. And I'm thinking that that's part of the trouble we have here. Now, yes, numbers are being inflated. There are more positives coming out because there's more tests available now. That is a truism. But if you look at percentages, the percentages are still going to kind of hold true. Now, there are some people playing with the numbers and they're saying that, like, for instance, they're counting people who had the virus and then are over it, but are still testing positive because they were previous holders of the virus who got over it and things like that. And there's no way to really react directly to that kind of monkeying with numbers. Really, you just have to look at the overall climate out and try to make your best judgment call. There's a big uproar in the world about to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. Um, I'm totally for requiring people to wear masks, except for the fact that my own claustrophobia won't let me wear the mask. Um, so I would feel hypocritical if I voted yes to a law that required people to, though even though I agree with the law, since I can't follow it, I can't put my backing behind that law. So when I had a chance to actually respond, because they are taking responses to city councils and stuff, they're having you weigh in on your opinion. I did tell them that no, I do not support that law, but I said I mainly don't support it because I myself could not follow it, but I'm actually in support of the spirit of the law. I just can't in good conscience get behind it. But I also, a lot of people are saying, well, you need to get this law in place because it's going to prevent us from going back into shelter in place. And I actually think we need to go back into shelter in place. A lot of people would argue me down, but I think that that's an important step. As the one video I played earlier in my other show is too soon. We've come back out too soon, and I'll probably play that video again on this show. I can do that. Um, let's see. Actually, let me go. And let's play the too soon video for everybody. If you haven't heard it, it's a cute little kind of parody video, but it's very political in very timely for what's going on right now. And so I'm gonna stop it here, not actually get it started yet, till I switch to videos so that you can actually watch the video too. It's my girlfriend's favorite of the parodies I'm currently running. Uh, I'm always running parodies and she gets sick of them after a while, but this is one that she really likes. Uh, well then, saving money means I get to go out and do everything. Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on that. Anyway, yeah, there's just to avoid fines. Yeah, but the thing is, I still think, and this video kind of expresses some of the worries and concerns, but it does it in an amusing way, which is what parody's about. And sometimes being a laugh at herself in a serious subject, it still helps us hit home with that subject. And that's why I think videos like this are important. And I don't think that the copyright police are going to get me for this one, because I played it in my last show and this show, and I think this one's pretty much open for people to play, so it's not going to worry. It's Steve Goody singing a song called "Too Soon," and it's part of a special comedy project that Mikey Mason's a part of. Then, of course, if you know Mikey Mason, he's the comedian that did She Don't Like Firefly and Saturday Morning Cartoons and The Best Game Ever, which are all kind of gaming and nerd related musical numbers. He was our guest a couple of years at the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo here in Springfield and also at VisionCon. So where he's also did some MC work for us and for them. I say them because I'm not on the board for VisionCon, even though I am there every year and I've been offered a spot a couple of times. But I'm actually on the board for the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo as their cross promotions director, and I run my RPG college table at game every year. And I run my GM roundtable panel. Now at VisionCon, the last couple of years I've run panels there, but years before that, I was a little bit too busy running our game booth to get panels or even games being run by me anymore. But I used to run games at VisionCon too. And I will occasionally do at least a pickup game. I try to get in at least one game a year as well. But like I said, VisionCon didn't even happen this year. We had a virtual VisionCon, which was great, but it wasn't the same as being there live with people. And that's one of the things we are looking forward to. And so I want us to get to the point where we can healthily do that before we open all of our doors back up. But anyway, enough preamble. I'm going to go ahead and put this video on. And I've got it set to go. And it's called Too Soon by Steve Goody. And I think you're really going to like it. Like I said, it's one of my girlfriend's favorites of what I've been doing nowadays. So here we go. Let's play that since we don't have anything else coming through on the wire. It does look like we did have a new person enter the room though. And Mr. Cletus. Welcome, Mr. Cletus. You're here just in time to hear a kind of political spoof parody song. This is called Too Soon.
Dum diddy dum, why we gotta be dumb? Too soon.
It's much too soon.
Some folks refuse to stay home.
Don't wanna stay indoors no more.
Quarantine is too hard.
Wanna go bowling and get my hair done.
they say it's all overblown.
Dum diddy dum 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 dum. Is it gone? Is it gone? Dang, it ain't gone. But out they all run too soon.
They go out in defiance against all reason and science. So proud of their non-compliance. Weeks of quarantine, now they all want haircuts. Screaming hoax, bearing arms, they're protesting and not distancing. Then there's the Trump team.
Oy vey! Holy crap!
They're nuts, trying to sell hydroxychloroquine. Much too soon. Virus is still multiplying. They don't mind grandma dying, but I still kinda like mine.
Dum dum. Open up. We need to buy stuff, and we listen to Trump too soon.
And when the cases start spiking, they'll say, sorry, we didn't understand. But pandemics with an exponential rate of transmission should not be taken lightly. Was it worth that trip to Disneyland?
Dum. Want some fun? We gotta have fun. Good Lord, are we dumb?
Too soon. You refuse isolation, and you fear vaccination. I will plan your cremation.
Dum. Is it gone? Dang, it ain't gone. Want some fun? We gotta have fun. Open up. Second wave coming up. We need to buy stuff, and we listen to Trump. Or even if we don't, we gotta go out and earnestly protest the egregious and ongoing racial bias in law enforcement and in society in general, which is commendable to protest, but we still need to be careful and stop confusing peaceful protesters with rioters and looters who should also wear masks. Actually, they should just stay home and not riot and loot, but in any case, too soon.
Okay. That was an amusing little anecdotal kind of song for everybody. And I think it has an important message in it because it is too soon. I think we should still be, at least here in the U.S., we still should be in shelter in place. Some other countries are opening back up right now, but they actually stayed closed longer and were under more control of their populace long enough to really make sure that the virus had run its course, and they're still closing their borders. They're not letting people come in yet. We don't really have a travel restriction. We have maybe a travel anti-advisory, but no real restriction. And so, that's one of the difficulties that we're dealing with in these times is that it's just not the same for everybody. Because people aren't taking things as seriously as I think they need to. I'm just adjusting things here while we're talking. Okay, there we go. That just didn't look right to me. And so I figured I'd adjust it while we're at it. That doesn't look quite right either, but I guess it's okay. All right. But I'm waiting for people to ask questions and stuff. Let's see. Game Note RS said something in channel. Hey, mate, got an appointment at the hospital, so I'll be off going to leave my browser and Twitch open to bump up that viewership. Who affiliate, here you come. Yep. Thank you so much for the help, mate. You're doing a great job there, Game Note RS. It's really nice to have you around. Maybe next time we can even get you in asking some questions about gaming when it's one of these RPG colleges. Although I know you're mainly working on some other things in other channels, and you're just giving me the views, which is awesome too. Really helping me out. I understand having to go to the hospital. Like I said, I was just there myself, so I hope everything's okay. But you be good, mate. Talk to you later. I end up using terms like mate because I talk to people who use terms like mate. And it's not kind of any kind of condescension, not condensation, condescension. It's just me. I have a tendency to use some of the same terminology that's used around me. In fact, I used to do telemarketing, and we would telemarket to the UK. And by the end of the day's shift, I sounded like a native because I would automatically, instinctively pick up on their accents and just start talking in them. And they would actually start thinking, "Oh, what part of the UK are you from?" They would ask me, and I would tell them, "California." What? They wouldn't get it. And I was like, "I'm sorry. Yeah, just I talk and I hear the accents day in and day out. And one, I love the accents. Two, I'm just kind of a natural born mimic. I can't help it. So after a while, I would just start to pick up, and so I started to sound like when I was talking to people from London, I would sound like a Londoner, and then I was talking to somebody from Glasgow, I'd start to sound like somebody from Glasgow. You know, not as heavy Cockney necessarily, unless I was talking to a whole bunch of people with a heavy Cockney accent, but it would just naturally come out of me. That's just kind of who and what I am sometimes. Like I said, no mockery is intended, but I do tend to use words like mate and stuff because of the other thing about it is great is by using the terms that other people use uh, in their own natural speech patterns. I am making sure not to be offensive to them by using their accepted terminology, because different cultures have different words that are considered taboo. For instance, a lot of people don't realize, but I know that here in America we look down on uh, too much vulgarity and cussing, and the word fuck is used a lot. And people recognize here in America, fuck is a vulgarity, fuck is a crude word, but it's not necessarily considered a crude word in other parts of the world. On the other hand, even though the stereotype in America is to think that all the English are going around saying bloody this and bloody that, but the whole bloody term is more of a vulgarity, I've been told, in their culture than saying fuck all the time. So if you turn around and say bloody, bloody, bloody back to them, you have to realize that you're being as vulgar to them as if they were to you going fuck, fuckity, fuck, fuck, fuck. Like I said, it's a good thing this is an adult show, or I couldn't say this at all. So, but by using the same acceptable terms that other people are using, like calling somebody mate instead of friend or something, I'm using a term that I know that they accept. And this way, like for instance, I'm not sure if Game Note RS is male or female, but because Game Note RS referred to me as mate, referring to them back as mate is meeting them halfway. I'm still using a identifier with them that they would find acceptable in normal speech patterns, and if not, they would speak up and tell me differently. So that's why anytime you catch me doing something like that, it has nothing to do with mockery. But maybe Colin Mockery if you're familiar with the comedian, but nothing to do with mockery itself. Just trying to make a joke there. It fell flat, but that's because my humor can do that to people sometimes. See, we got about 46 minutes left of the show. I'm kind of stretching back here. This is not an important shirt. A lot of times I wear nerd-based shirts. This one just says staff, and it was a shirt I picked up at like a thrift store or something, so I wasn't even the one on staff for the shirt. But I think I've gotten comments on many times says, "Oh, well, you were there, man, yeah." So I think this is one of the ones that the concert shirt. It might be that one. I've got a couple of them that are like this. Um, that's not to say I don't have some staffer shirts that are pretty cool, and I used to have the original Appetite for Discussion and Ride the Lightning T-shirts for for them, and I don't have them anymore, and it's terrible. Uh, you know, but I had an ex-girlfriend throw away my Ride the Lightning shirt. Yeah, my current girlfriend wants to beat her up. Now, granted, my girlfriend would want to beat me up if I still had the shirt if she saw the state it was in because I wore it all the time. She would want me to put it under glass and keep it protected. But I like to wear it. It was like one of my favorite shirts to wear. So it's kind of one of those things. Do you buy it as a collected item, or do you buy it as a wearable item to show your pride in a band or something? And there's just and there's some people that kind of split the difference. They buy it to wear, but they only wear it on special occasions and try to uh, keep it in extra good condition in between, so it never gets worn out or anything. But I've had a rough life, I got to admit. So a lot of my stuff has gotten pretty worn out. I look pretty worn out. I mean, take a look at me. Santa Claus is old. Ho ho ho. No, I'm not old. Tell my girlfriend that too, because she keeps thinking I am. I keep telling her I'm the young one in this relationship. What'd you say? Ha ha. At least I got somebody to laugh. Yep, this is my comedy routine. I'm here all week. Try the veal. Now, but we're basically just killing time here today. Normally, this 2 hour block on Tuesdays and Sundays is for questions, comments, concerns, history on Dungeons and Dragons. And sometimes I'll have my own side topic prepped and ready in case nobody comes in. But this is the first one that I'm doing the full one of. So I didn't really prep anything today. I was hoping to get some actual people in channel to come in and help spark the conversation a little bit, but it doesn't always happen that way, and that's understandable. I'm slowly building my following here on Twitch. I've only been Twitch streaming since April, and I've only had this particular schedule just started the Tuesday before I went to the hospital, so it's barely a couple weeks old. And like I said, this is the first actual Sunday I've gotten to do this show because of the fact that I went in the hospital from Thursday to Monday. And I missed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday's shows of everything. Um, I did, actually, I think I got out on Tuesday. But then I did do my Tuesday night. Instead of doing Left Claw simulcast, I went ahead and just did a nostalgia gaming show because I didn't want to pick them up halfway through. They weren't expecting it, so I didn't do that. Instead, I just did some nostalgia gaming, and I actually got lucky in that I got a pretty decent little raid that night, which helped me build up my viewership a little bit. I'm still working hard to try to make affiliate. For those who want to know where I am in the standing, the last I looked, my average viewers was at 2.2. I need to get it to 3 in order to get that invite because I've met every other requirement. I've streamed the minimum amount of hours in the last, 7 days, whatever, minimum number of days in a row. I've got the 50 followers. In fact, I'm over 70 followers now. I'm back up to 73. I actually was down to 72 again a little bit ago. I think somebody may have stopped their follow either on purpose or accident, but they maybe followed me back up again. Who knows? But so the only requirement I'm missing now is the average of three viewers over the last 30 days. And I thought that the couple of raids I had in the last few days would have cinched it for me, but I don't think they're completely weighted as much on individual shows. They're trying to spread it in such a way. And I can understand that where no individual show is suddenly going to get somebody invited to affiliate, no matter how many. I mean, I could have 600 people come in, and they probably still wouldn't let that one show be enough to influence. Although, wouldn't it be nice if I got a 600 person raid? It's actually funny because the other day I was in a channel just as Felicia Day, I was watching Felicia Day's channel as she went and sent it to a raid to somebody else's channel. And her and Amy Okuda were playing something. I'd got there to tail end, so didn't get to see what they were playing. But I went along with the raid, and she raided another channel with over 600 people, which was a fantastic raid for them. I'm really jelly myself. I'd love to get a raid that size to come into my room, even if they quickly trickled out. Just having 30 minutes to an hour of that kind of numbers in my channel would be amazing for my progress towards affiliate. Let's see what the girlfriend's saying here. Don't listen to him. He's older than me by 5 years. Before you bring in the multipliers, she always likes to forget the multipliers. But as you know, general listeners, everybody knows that the multipliers are completely and absolutely accurate and have been ratified. So she needs to realize that because she has kids and I have no kids, she is automatically considered older because kids artificially age you. Much as I wanted to be a father, I still admit that kids artificially age you. And she has a teenager and somebody in her 20s, which means, and she has an ex-husband that, trust me, is nothing more than a big kid in some ways too. So by looking at them, she's somewhere around 119. She likes to tell people she's 19 perpetually, and she doesn't understand why she has a 20-something-year-old daughter if she's 19. It confuses her, but she's 19. She'll tell you that over and over again. And she's not. She's 119. She's just dropping the 100. That's all. And I've finally figured it out, but she doesn't want to accept my premise. No multipliers. No. Multipliers have been ratified. I told you that. Yes, there's special multipliers that are added to your age if you have children, or also if you have an ex-husband or ex-wife. That is a major factor. Anything more than a couple of years. See, I was married, but it was only a couple of years, so mine didn't count. In fact, my divorce is already through, and the divorce itself gives you some years back. You just feel renewed. It's funny because there's a word in another language. I can never remember which language it is. It's one of the Asian languages that basically the word for divorce is also the same word for reincarnation. So basically, divorce brings you back to life, and I got to respect that. And she hasn't got her divorce finalized yet. So for her, she's still aging at an accelerated rate. She just doesn't want to accept it. She's just old. And with her being with me, it counts her as a cradle robber. She's going to get me when she's back over here touching up the dishes right now. So she's not at her keyboard, but she's going to blast me when she gets back to the keyboard. She's already blasting me with glares over her shoulder. Anyway, I'm just having a little fun while we're waiting. And we got about 37 minutes left on the show. The show's done. I did say that I might keep some of the mining and stuff going while I was doing this show, just to have something going on in the background. And I do know that my new RuneScape, I am trying to convert a bunch of my tin and copper into bronze bars, and it's a slow, tedious process because I really did gather quite a bit of bronze. I mean, because I'm at something like 600 and some bronze now, and I still have 400 and some ore sufficient to make more. So I'll be over 1,000 bronze when that's done. but I can let that go in the background. You'll see it here in its lower corner if you bother to look. But it's a little tiny, so I don't know how well you'll see it. This is just kind of my little opening preview screen when I use this screen when I'm playing both of them simultaneously, and I might be switching back and forth to them, and I have the different host scenes. But this is like my central screen that I go in between them. It's a way to kind of keep track of both going on at one time. I'm not going to log into the other one now because I know I'm not in an easy area to do a bunch of stuff with that one. And that's okay. I mean, I can make more. Yeah, I can make more jewelry if I wanted to, but really, I'm just killing time. Hopefully, the show will pick up some. That is the goal at some point. Fortunately, if you see me twitch like that, it means that one of these moths or something is trying to land on me or dive bomb me or whatever. Lately there's just been a bunch of moths in this house, and it's really pissing me off because they were trying to land on my food and everything else. So I'm going to even close the lid on my food. Once you come back and say, meh. That's her way of saying, yes, you're absolutely right, dear. The multiplier is legal. I will act as a translator for you guys so you can understand. That's what meh means. I know you might think it means something else, but really that's what it means. Ugh. But anyway, let's go back to talking about gaming and Dungeons and Dragons. You hear that little cat noise in the background? That's coming from the new RuneScape. I've got the sound on, but at one of its lowest settings. I probably should turn it all the way off, but I was kind of using it just a little bit of sound to kind of try to remind me to go clicking back over there just to do what I was doing basically when I was in the other RuneScape playing. We might end up cutting this show a little bit early, in fact, just to keep my numbers up a little bit and what have you. I don't know yet. I'm getting really tired and I could probably use a nap. One of the problems that I do deal with, just to let people know, among the other things I have is renal failure, but it also comes along with chronic fatigue syndrome. And that means that I'm tired all the time. I have sleep apnea, but I can only sleep maybe an hour to 2 hours at a time usually. And a lot of times I only get like 15 to 30-minute cat naps in, as my girlfriend will attest. It frustrates her all to hell sometimes because she knows that I need more sleep, but I'm just not getting it. And also means I'm waking up in the middle of the night, turning the light on, which might wake her up. And then I want to pester her for pillows and bankies and stuff. And then we get into a contest of that, and she gets frustrated. So she'd rather I slept through. Also, I might try to steal her teddy bear, which, of course, she treats it like it's cardinal sin when everybody knows that the boyfriend always has the right to the teddy bear of the girlfriend. And half the time, she doesn't know, but her teddy bear actually crawls over to my side of the bed. It's not me doing it at all. It's her teddy bear, but she doesn't ever want to blame the teddy bear. She thinks it's innocent. Yes, she anthropomorphizes her teddy bear. Nothing. she's not actively commenting because she's not actively listening. So she didn't really hear what I had to say. Of course, it could also be because she knows and recognizes that I'm absolutely right. Her teddy bear does voluntarily crawl over to my side of the bed, and it is not me doing it. It's her teddy bear. I'm completely sweet and innocent and never do nothing wrong. And she should know it because she's my girlfriend. And she should recognize that wonderfulness that is me. Why is she looking at the clouds like it's like, where is the lightning going to come? But there's no clouds in the sky. She's just shaking her head. Actually, we're supposed to be getting thunderstorms this weekend. We feel cheated because there are no thunderstorms. Now, on the subject of food coming up, I mean, we had the Hacienda Mexican food for lunch. For dinner, I'm making white chili, which, if you don't know what white chili is, that's a chili based around chicken instead of beef or pork or something of that sort. It usually has a white creamy sauce instead of a tomato-based sauce, and it's usually made with Great Northern beans instead of pinto, kidney, or black beans. I happen to love Great Northern beans, and we picked up a few cans of them. So we're going to use the Great Northern beans. We're going to use leftover chicken from last night's pesto chicken. And if we need additional chicken, I did pick up some canned chicken to go with it. But I don't think we're going to need any extra because we got quite a bit of leftovers. And we're going to make some chicken chili for at least the two of us. The boy will be back from his father's today sometime. But usually by the time he gets back on Sunday, he has eaten over there at his dad's house. So I really only have to worry about cooking for the two of us today. And chicken chili happens to be one of our mutual favorites because my girlfriend can make a meal out of any kind of bean. She swears to me that meals are beans. I keep telling her no, it has to have meat for it to qualify as a meal. Beans are a nice base, but without the meat it doesn't count. But she keeps arguing with me on that fact. Makes me think my cat's in the house. She's whining. She wants attention. Or he. I said she. It's a he. We have a male cat, but I keep wanting to call Vriska female for some reason. Yeah, but I don't know that character, so to me that's not a big deal. For some reason, I always wanted to call Vriska a female, even though he's my baby boy. And he is literally my baby boy because he hangs on me like I'm his daddy. And half the time he ignores everybody else in the house, except those rare times when he wants their attention, and then they have no choice. They must give it, or they must suffer his wrath. But don't you try to pick him up, because that's not his choice. If it's not his choice, then it's wrong, and he will try to scratch and bite you. But he does not scratch and bite me, because he knows Daddy will thump him. But that's just dealing with cats in general. You know, dogs have owners, cats have staff. And he will dock your pay. He's always threatening to anyway because we never feed him enough. Of course, as far as he's concerned, there's no such thing as enough. He can always use another nosh. Actually ended up with 275 geodes on this game, by the way, so I'm looking forward to opening those up. It's like Christmas time in this game where you get a whole bunch of gemstones that the geodes reveal themselves to be. That's one of the things I do like about the new RuneScape and the mining is instead of just finding uncut gems, you find geodes. Then later on you open up the geodes and you get random gems from the geodes. So that little bit of wait and anticipation is always nice. Trying to pop my neck, it's not working. Oh well, it's 4:34. We got about 26 minutes left on the show. If everybody else is cool with it, though, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. Oh no, we're back up to 4 people. Never mind. We got 4 people in here. We got a new person that's joined. Go ahead and say hi if you can. I just saw it changed to 4. Yeah. Uh, you don't? That's what I ordered. Okay. Let's see. Refreshing the main monitor page to see for sure what it says. Nope, it says 4 viewers. Like with any game of this nature, there's a lot of grinding involved. That's the one thing I'm not sure my girlfriend would be getting into too much if I did get her into a game like this, is the amount of just sheer grinding that she might have to do to get certain skills up. Then again, she might find it relaxing. I mean, she plays those dang farm games and stuff, and that's a lot of repetitious grinding. And she loves Tetris, which is probably one of the original just freaking rote, keep doing it kind of games. And it's one of her favorite games of all time, if not her favorite game of all time. I mean, I have to give her to. She has different eclectic tastes in games. It was nice when I first met her. I found out that she already played and liked Settlers of Catan, which is a great game, and she had an original set of Millborns. You know, so she had some exposure to gaming, and she had played Cards Against Humanity before, which is a great perk. Because if you ever play that game, that's the ultimate party game. Um, and I have the original base set plus all 6 of the first expansions, plus the no, plus I got some of the I got the 10 Days of Bullshit one year, which means I've got some cards with my own name on them. But anyway, it looks like we have 4 people, but nobody else is talking. But at the same time, I hate to cut it short because it's going to slightly up my percentages of viewers if I keep it on while it's at 4 people and wait until it goes below 4. But in some ways, it feels like I'm milking it a little bit. Let's see now. Let's see if I can find a preview for Founders and Legends. That might be something worth... they have an announcement, of course, in the Players Beyond app. Let's see here. YouTube. See if they got anything for Founders and Legends preview for this year. Try that. 2020. I don't see any previews of the Founders and Legends game. There's some interviews and conversations from last year. Some of the games from last year. But nothing like that. Let's see now. Let's see if I can find a preview for my Fractured game. Wrong field here. See if there's any new trailer. New featured trailer, that's for test 1. Open playtest weekend trailer. Gameplay impressions, Alpha Test 2 tutorial playthrough. Then first look. Nah. Nope. Let's see. Let's look for some kind of newsreel then. I know. But see if the New Mutants has got anything. Hmm. 2 months ago. 4 months ago. 6 months ago. 4 months ago. Here's one of the, no, I don't want to see that. It's a little bit too long. Just looking for something to play that is not going to count, you know, with the censorship. Here's a 6-minute trailer. 2021 is what this is called. I'm not sure its content, but should be okay to watch. Wait until he gets through this commercial. Now let's see. Let's bring you to the page here. You can see it. We're going to run this trailer for you.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond truthfully. Have you ever hurt someone?
Yes.
Have you ever experienced anything you'd consider abnormal?
Yes.
Last question. Do you know what mutants are? Did you know baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous than adult ones? They haven't learned how to control how much venom they secrete. All of you are dangerous. That's why you're here.
What is this place?
This isn't a hospital.
It's a haunted house.
You've been through a lot. Get some rest. This is a facility for young mutants like yourself. When the mutants first got their powers, chances are they hurt someone. I know you're scared, But you're safe now.
I don't think this is a hospital. He's there.
The New Mutants.
New mutants are dangerous. That's why you're here.
Ooh, scary.
This is kind of a compilation of all of the
It's a
previews.
cage.
Together, we can get out of here.
That thing will kill you!
He's right, it's magic.
So am I.
The New Mutants.
That was so hot.
Rated PG-13, April 3rd.
Okay. Actually, that's not on April 3rd anymore. The new release date is August 28th. Hopefully that'll keep up. They don't get pushed back yet again. But I wanted to play that as something to kind of A, kill a little bit of time, and B, something I figured was safe to play. It won't be considered something the copyright police would stop us with. Even though they had a little bit of the brick of the wall kind of theme in the background, they never played enough of it to where I would have think that it would count. And plus, since it is a commercial, you should be able to play commercials. In fact, commercials should want to be played. I'm voluntarily playing them instead of force feeding them to people because I'm trying to play things that are relevant to us. Now, in other nerd history, nerd news, really, not nerd history. Let's see. For fans of comic books, there's a lot of great stuff happening right now. Of course, the MCU has already seen one of the biggest cataclysmic events in their history go through with the Infinity Wars and Endgame, wrapping up the first 3 phases of Marvel. And of course, they've acquired now the rights again to now make their own Fantastic Four, their own X-Men, and they're in shared rights to make Spider-Man. So a lot of those things are coming to fruition that had long been dreamed about and then brought into the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Marvel is doing pretty good in the cinematic front. They're not going as strong on the TV front. They did have some great TV shows, but they haven't all lasted. Of course, they had the short-term contract with Netflix to make the Daredevil line of TV shows, which is leading up to the Defenders, and then seasons after that of Iron Fist and Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Power Man or Luke Cage. But those contracts are ended. Freeform did Cloak and Dagger for 2 seasons. We've had The Runaways, we've had The Gifted, and of course Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is finally in their last season, I believe. Agent Carter didn't last very long, but is now on Disney Plus, so you can watch a lot of that there. So, but the TV is not as integral to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as the movies are, and in fact, they do cross over a little bit, but it's more of a movie to the TV, not back the other way around. Because, of course, like Phil Coulson, who runs the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., was first introduced to us in Iron Man and the X-Men, Iron Man and the Avengers type movies, as the right-hand man of Nick Fury before he took over the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and eventually got the directorship. And anytime something does happen on the big screen, it does affect the plots of the little screen stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But not all of their series are that way as far as the direct interaction. Now, on the other side of the coin, we've got the DC Universe. And the DC Universe is struggling in the cinematic movie department. They've had a couple of really great hits, Aquaman and Wonder Woman being the real notable ones. And the most recent not Suicide Squad, but Birds of Prey did really well. But Suicide Squad did only so-so in the box office, and Batman vs Superman and Dawn of the Justice League were just so-so accepted movies as well. The Joker independent movie, I mean, not as in it was done by an independent theater company, but as in the Joker's own unique movie outside of the Batman storyline, it actually did pretty well. But it's been kind of hit or miss with theater productions for for DC right now. On the other hand, the Arrowverse that was first started with Arrow is going strong. Arrow itself has finally retired from everything, so that means that the new flagship will be the Flash, because that was the next one to come around. But the Flash is going strong. Of course, Supergirl has been folded into the flock when it was acquired by the CW. So now it's in the same world, and Crisis brought everybody into the same world. Black Lightning is going strong. And there's some new offerings getting ready to come out. Batwoman is going to have a second season with a new Batwoman involved because Ruby Rose is leaving the show, but is on equitable terms and is being replaced. And the replacement is not going to play the same character. It's going to play a different version of Batwoman, but they're not going to call her like Batwoman 2 or anything and be gauche like that. It's still going to be a Batwoman, but it's not going to be the Katie Keene Batwoman. It's going to be a different Batwoman. And that will be coming out to us in the next season of the CW series. Legends of Tomorrow is still going strong and everything. And then we've got some other new offerings coming out, and there's always more. Of course, on the DC Universe streaming service, you've got the Titans that have done a couple of seasons now. Swamp Thing did a season. And you've got the Doom Patrol is now on its second season, and it's being shared between the DC Universe Online and HBO Max. And I'm actually watching on HBO Max, and it's doing really great. Every Thursday, new episodes of that are coming out. So the Doom Patrol, which is not your kids' comic book show, there's sexuality and violence in there, not appropriate for the younger kids. It's more like something like The Watchmen, where there's actually frontal nudity and everything shown and hinted at, and sexual sounds and everything, and it's just not appropriate necessarily for the young ones. But it's still a great irreverent series, and of course Brendan Fraser is one of the main characters, which is nice, and Timothy Dalton is also there, so you've got some star power behind everything. In fact, even Matt Bomer is in the show, although Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser are often seen behind makeup and artistry, because Brendan Fraser is playing Robot Man, so he's the voice of the robot, but you don't actually ever get to see his image except in flashback scenes. And Matt Bomer, same thing, he's playing Negative Man, so most of the time he's mummy wrapped in bandages unless it's a flashback scene, and then you get to see Matt Bomer. So, there's a mix of people, and of course Timothy Dalton is just in a wheelchair, but you get to see all of Timothy Dalton, so that's fine. And that's great. The other great new entry into the superhero verses is Stargirl. Stargirl is coming at you from DC Universe and the CW. It's been broadcast on both of those. So every Monday, first thing right after midnight on Monday, you can watch it on the DC Universe streaming service. And I'm not sure when it actually unlocks on the CW. I think it's like the next day. So that means Tuesday probably, because I'm not looking at it as CW. I'm not sure when you have access. You might have access on Monday because it could be airing on Sunday. Who knows? But that gives you another option for nerd shows to watch, and that's making it build powerfully. And then they're going to be building on the Sirens is going to be having their own kind of show. They're working on a few other shows to come out soon. And that's true of the Marvel Universe too. The Disney Plus streaming service has still got in the works, although they've been pushed back a little bit. There is going to be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's going to be the Loki program. There's going to be the Black Widow program. And of course, there's going to be a Black Widow movie now. There's still talk about there going to be a Flash movie, and it's still going to use Ezra, but it's not quite still have a definite release date. I think there's a soft release date there, but nothing definite. But there are some shows slotted in the next couple phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Shows like Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2, another Thor movie. We're going to have the Black Widow movie. There's going to be a Nova movie project, is looking like. Of course, there's going to be more entries in the Spider-Man franchise, which is kind of shared between Marvel and Fox. There is still talk of doing a reboot of a Fantastic Four movie, but we're not seeing anything really concrete on that yet. There's talk of a Silver Surfer project, especially since Galactus is going to be introduced in some newer material. The new Avengers is going to come out, and of course the long-awaited New Mutants that I just showed the kind of extended trailer for is now slated for August 28th of this year. Almost everything else is slotted for next year or afterwards, 21, 22, 23. But again, the New Mutants has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back so many times. But right now it's set for the 28th. And if it doesn't end up in theaters because the theaters don't get to open back up in a more robust fashion because of coronavirus and everything, it may just end up finally going straight to streaming. But there's no guarantee of which streaming service it's going to be with, because the way the original contract worked on the rights, HBO technically would have first shot at it because of who owned the contract before Disney reacquired the rights, and their contract doesn't expire until like 2022, which means HBO should have first shot at it. If not HBO, it's probably going to be Hulu or something like that, but not either Netflix or Disney Plus. Netflix, because they're pretty much divorcing themselves from Netflix, and not Disney Plus, because Disney Plus is kind of trying to still keep to the more wholesome environment of things, and so things are a little bit darker, scarier, and less necessarily wholesome for the younger kids are often going to be streaming on a different streaming service. So you might be able to get it as video on demand, as well as either HBO Max or maybe Hulu might have it, because those are the alternate homes for a lot of the properties owned by Disney when they don't go to Disney Plus directly. We're still waiting on more updates on that as they unfold. But that just gives you a kind of an oversight. It is now 5 o'clock and I'm able to log out. We're down to just 3 members in the chat room. So I feel comfortable logging out. I'm going to go ahead though and bump everybody over to a new stream with a raid, just because. Let's see. Talk shows and podcasts. No. Let's see if I can find a good show to send everybody to. See, I want to put it on mute and find somebody playing old school RuneScape. I do like to support old school RuneScape streamers. See if I can find people with lower view counts. Here's somebody that only has 45 viewers. 26 viewers. How about that? 26 viewers. Let's see if we can I mean, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to make it over, and that's fine. But we're going to go ahead and try to send it anyway, because that's just kind of how I like to do things. And we're going to go ahead and start the raid now. soon as it finishes the countdown. I mean, we're already down to 2 viewers, and it's probably going to be down to like empty by the time I send it, but that's okay. You never quite know. I have now sent it, so